Welcome back, everybody, to another Purpose Served podcast episode. I'm your legendary host, Daryl. Y'all haven't heard from me in a minute. It's been a while. It's probably been like over, I want to say a month now. To be quite honest. But today gonna be an interesting message, as with all of them. And this has been coming from a book that I brought up on here a couple of times, Man and His Symbols, by Carl Jung and collaborators. And this is dealing on the nature of dreams and the study of our psyche that this man dedicated his life to. So in the particular section of the social aspect of the self, it says, today the enormous growth of population, especially obvious in large cities, inevitably has a depressing effect on us. We think, oh well, I'm only so-and-so living at such and such an address like thousands of other people. If a few of them get killed, what difference can it make? There are far too many people in any case. And when we read in the paper about the deaths of innumerable unknown people who personally mean nothing to us, the feeling that our lives count for nothing is further increased. This is the moment when attention to the unconscious brings the greatest help. For dreams show the dreamer how each detail of his life is interwoven with the most significant realities. The conversations that I've been having with people as of late have been showing me how brain dead people are, for real. And the issue with people having like critical thinking skills, honestly speaking, they don't want to think. They want to be told what to do. They want to be told what to eat, and want to be told how to live their life, which is a trap. And we all know that that's a trap. But ain't nobody going to put in like the honest effort to figure out what they soul need to do in order for their body to act it out from a spiritual sense. Just continuing on reading. Well, we all know theoretically that everything depends on the individual, becomes through dreams a palpable fact that everyone can experience for himself. Sometimes we have a strong feeling that the great man wants something from us and has set us very special tasks. Our response to this experience can help us to acquire the strength to swim against the stream of collective prejudice by taking our own soul seriously into account. Within the last 5 episodes, in a sense, I've been talking about that. This whole entire podcast is me talking about that. Be for real. If y'all gotta check out the other ones. But I've been moving more so away from actual physical things that somebody can do, and giving words of wisdom to somebody's spirit and soul to have that resonate in an extremely deeper sense, to unlock a deeper truth, rather than things that you're pretty much used to hearing all the time on what are the steps that you need to do in order to find your purpose, or what are the signs to look for in that regard, because you're not going to know by taking those routes. And your best bet is to listen to yourself in that regard, because something in you has a higher level and a high intelligence of being, and you just have to trust it instead of trusting what comes outside of that, which what majority of people are doing, and they're lying to themselves about who they are and what they should be doing. And that's what's creating more and more dysfunction within people's lives, between households and also friendships and relationships, that's making people feel like they on the island rather than honestly feeling a part of a strong bonded community. And me personally speaking, I think that this is being set up intentionally, based off of agendas that's being pushed for a collective destructive goal. That's just me. You can think whatever you want, but it's clear that we going in a certain direction. The direction is seeming like it's on a downward spiral rather than up, depending on the lens that you're looking at it at. Straight up, if you want mayhem and destruction, then that's a good thing. If you don't want that, then a lot of these signs like around you and inside of you should be alarming to the point where you feel a need that you have to do something about it. Right? So, continuing on reading yet again. Naturally, this is not always an agreeable task. For instance, you want to make a trip with friends next Sunday, then a dream forbids it. It demands that you do some creative work instead. If you listen to your unconscious and obey it, you must expect constant interference with your conscious plans. Your will is crossed by other intentions that you must submit to, or at any rate must seriously consider. This is partly why the obligation attached to the process of individuation is often felt to be a burden rather than an immediate blessing. So the process of individuation is pretty much living out the self, living out the core of your psyche that takes in the totality of the wholeness of everything that's inside of you and also everything that's outside of you as well, that make you who you are, that make you respond to the world in the way that you respond to the world in. And in a deeper sense, like I said, going back on the last couple of podcast episodes that I've been slowly but surely talking about, is the two greatest commandments and the golden rule, and bringing up Jesus, Yeshua, the Nazareth from Nazarene, who spoke on these things. And also it was stated these same things in Deuteronomy when Moses was speaking to the people in the wilderness during the period of Exodus, where they was leaving from Egypt to enter in the promised land, the land of Canaan. And in between that, they were in a barren desert land. But the golden rule and the two commandments is to love the Lord your God with pretty much everything that you have, just paraphrasing it. And the second is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And by doing this is true Orthodox term, but theosis, union with God, which all of us truly want. Whether we are agnostic, whether we are atheists, we want to know that we're doing the right thing. Nobody wants to do the wrong thing. There's a handful of people that, just give statistics the benefit of the doubt, that don't care whether or not. But oftentimes people that do move in that direction is coming from a place of hurt. And it's coming from a place of pain. And it's coming from a place of most likely they was wronged in their life that triggered them to do that because somebody violated the two commandments and violated the golden rule. And a lot of issues in this world is stemming from that. That's why a lot of things are so messed up within relationships amongst spouses, within relationships with friends and family, is because the golden rule and the commandments are being violated. And not only that, people truly don't take the time out and investigate their soul and what their soul is showing them, and their soul calling them to a higher nature, which is spirit. Because this episode is going to get real deep. I'm just warning y'all. And you might have to keep listening to this one. But our dreams are important. And dreams are the creation of God. And even with those people that say that they lucid dream and they could go in their dream and do whatever they want, that's not necessarily the case. And even with reading this book, it breaks that down in a sense where it's just like, your conscious mind is creating scenarios where you think you got control, but that control was given to you consciously from an unconscious place. And oftentimes, and you need to balance this out within yourself, when your true soul calling, your true life purpose hits you, it oftentimes is going to bring you to a point where you're being removed from everything around you that you think that you need to be around and need to be associated with. It most likely is going to pull you away from your family. It's most likely going to pull you away from your friends. It's most likely going to pull you away from the work that you think that you should be doing for something deeper and more meaningful. Continuing on reading. Your will is crossed by other intentions that you must submit to, or at any rate must seriously consider. This is partly why the obligation attached to the process of individuation is often felt to be a burden rather than an immediate blessing. So, the one thing that I talked about on this podcast, if you've been following this journey for a while, is the main thing that guided me to this point was basketball. And at first, me playing basketball, it was a spice. I'm not even going to lie. I had such high hopes for myself, and the results that I got to start off with was so contrary to what I wanted to experience that it borderline made me want to quit so many times. But something in me was like, nah, I'll love this game too much. I gotta keep going. And as time progressed, and this is like me, 8th grade, 9th grade years, sophomore year, where the resolve started getting built, but it was a burden. It really did feel like a burden. It didn't feel like a blessing, like playing, from getting cut, tearing my ACL my junior year, and other things that pretty much happened right after I graduated high school, where life just started getting real. And basketball was somewhat in the back burner. I mean, I still played, but other things just got real. That made me think, like, reconsider, like, my life path and what I was doing. Getting kicked out the crib like a week after I graduated high school, all of that. Life got real quick. But I didn't stop. But not only that, once I achieved a certain level with playing, another deeper calling was there, which was like always present, which was to inspire other people. And this unconsciously came about by the time the pandemic rolled around. And without that time period, which was like another burden, instead of it being a blessing, that was the birth of Purpose Served. So we're going right back to the book. So Saint Christopher, the patron of all travelers, is a fitting symbol for this experience. According to the legend, he felt the arrogant pride in his tremendous physical strength and was willing to serve only the strongest. First he served a king, but when he saw that the king feared the devil, he left him and became the devil's servant. Then one day, he discovered the devil feared the crucifix, and so he decided to serve Christ. If he could find him, he followed the advice of a priest who told him to wait for Christ at a ford. In the years that passed, he carried many people across the river. But once, on a dark, stormy night, a small child called out that he wanted to be carried over the river. With the greatest ease, St. Christopher lifted the child onto his shoulders, but he walked more slowly with every step, for his burden became heavier and heavier. When he arrived in midstream, he felt as if he carried the whole universe. He realized then that he had taken Christ upon his shoulders, and Christ gave him remission of his sins and eternal life. This miraculous child is a symbol of the self that literally depresses the ordinary human being, even though it is the only thing that can redeem him. In many works of art, the Christ child is depicted as or with the spirit of the world, a motif that clearly denotes the self. For a child with a spear are both universal symbols of totality. When a person tries to obey the unconscious, he will often, as we have seen, be unable to do just as he pleases, but equally, he will often be unable to do what other people want him to do. It often happens, for instance, that he must separate from his group, from his family, his partner, or other personal connections in order to find himself. This is why it is sometimes said that attending to the unconscious makes people antisocial and egocentric. As a rule, this is not true, for there is a little known factor that enters into this attitude, the collective, or what we can easily say, social aspect of the self. So, when you truly get that calling, you're going to know that you got that calling. It's going to be a strong pull that's going to guide you into a certain direction. And I'm speaking extremely vague right now because this can mean many things for many different people. But at the same time, at the core of it all, it's still the same thing. And the shape that kept being referenced is a sphere, which is closely linked to a circle. And a circle by its nature is whole in many parts, and all parts represent the center of the shape itself, which means that it creates balance. And right now, there's a strong imbalance in our culture, in our society, and you got to think collectively that there's a middle point to society as well. It's not really sporadic and chaotic as we may think it is, but it's trying to find a balancing act, as we all are, because nothing can sustain for a long time if it's in balance. And getting to the core of yourself is the most important thing before you check up out of here, before you try to meet the needs of other people. Because if you're not right, I'm guaranteeing that the people around you ain't going to be right either. No matter how much you try to fake it and prioritize other people, there's going to be a burnout effect to you. You're going to start to feel heavy in your soul and spirit. And then after that, you're going to have to do light work. Go check out the light work podcast episode. And that's extremely important. And I think that nowadays that has to be prioritized. Something I've been talking about here on a long time is just that this mental health, that whatever crisis that we're going through is just seriously a soul sickness, which has a cure. And you got to free your mind of falsehoods and lies and deceptions and replace that with simply the truth that's going to give you the light, and it's going to give you eternal life and immortality if you come across this truth. And this truth has been mentioned here on this podcast, and it's been being more so alluded to more and more as time goes on. And I'm not trying to put my beliefs on anybody or my faith in anybody, but it's just simply who I am, and it's simply how I carried myself. And the fact of the matter is, it helped me get to this point of discovering what the absolute truth is. And the absolute truth lies in, like I said, those two big commandments that was given to us. And if you heard it here, you also know where the source of that came from. So it got delivered to you as well. And I'm not the source of it. I'm just a vessel to carry the message forward, and even more so. And not only that, for me personally speaking, I have to live it. I can't just talk about it, because talking about it is just, it don't even really will take a strong effect on the people that's listening, to all you guys that's listening, which I'm appreciative of. I can't believe that we came this far and y'all still listening to me. That's kind of nuts. I ain't even gonna lie to you. That joint is crazy. Crazy. Especially like my listeners international. That is wild. But I seriously encourage y'all to listen to the dreams that you have. Do the best that you possibly can of doing the deep work of journaling down some of the dreams that you have, the feelings that you have, and investigating that and be extremely watchful and extremely mindful and extremely alert to the things that trigger your soul in your everyday life. And even when your mind goes idle, be mindful about that and ask yourself, what's triggering this? What was the thing that my senses just experienced that just threw me off? What is the thing that makes me feel aligned and feel connected to myself and everything that's around me in an authentic, harmonious way? Because as time goes on, it's going to keep getting more and more distorted the more that we keep accepting the false reality of how this world works and how this world operates. And like I said, I love technology, but at the same time, with what people can do with it, they're not exploring the truth with it. They're just trying to get you to see what they want you to see. And oftentimes that's not necessarily the truth. And how we fell from grace in the good book is because of deception, of manipulating the truth. Where it wasn't necessarily a lie being told, but it was truth being told in an extremely deceptive way that caused the curse of the whole entire earth from a spiritual sense and a symbolic sense. And all of these things have already been made right by our Creator. And that's only if you want to look at it like that. But going back to the concept of theosis, which is an orthodox term, is that we are looking for the union with our Creator. And also, in the beginning of the good book, it says that God breathed our spirit into us and gave us a living soul. So our soul was dead before that point. We had a carnal, dead soul. And this is a concept that me and my brother have been talking about as of late. It's just that you got the difference between soul and spirit. And spirit is of a higher nature and soul is of a lower nature. And in order to have union with God, which is all spirit, we need to cleanse our soul and not have it be weighed down so heavily with earthly matters, but getting it as light as a feather to have our soul and spirit unite with God, essentially speaking. And you can't do that through deception. You can't do that by not being real with yourself. You can't do that by simply trying to have a moral code and moral compass that you try to ride, and principles, because oftentimes that's going to be your own will and it's going to fall short. But you're going to need something supernatural. You really going to need something supernatural to get through this life and prepare for the next one after this. And dreams is a huge deal that tells you a lot about yourself in an unconscious way and give you unconscious messages that you got to make conscious in some sort of way. And this is a heavy laden message, but I think that is well needed for the times that we're living in right now. And I highly suggest that you guys read Man and the Symbols. And if you want to reference the things that I'm talking about in regards to, scripture, just read the book of Genesis, read the book of Deuteronomy, and read the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And specifically, if you want to know about the golden rule and everything, just look up the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes that was given, which covers everything in regards to code of conduct on how you should carry yourself in this world. And then after that, this is the thing. This is the last thing that I'm going to leave off on. It's something that I talk about here a lot. But whatever you got dwelling on inside of you, and your soul and spirit, you're going to act it out. And what you acting out necessarily isn't you. It's a shadow of who you are. And the real you is hidden within you, that starts with the things that you think about every day, about yourself and the world, and the way that you feel about yourself and feel about the world. Like those insecurities, the strengths that you have, all of it, they all make up who you are. And then after that, you act off of that. So that's why you got to cleanse your soul and your spirit in order for your actions to get purified and your deeds to get purified. Instead of it coming from an unnatural place that don't create harmony in the world that you live in from the inside and out. That's going to keep being preached here and seek the truth above all else. Something that I've been feeling the need to blatantly say as of late. But that's all I got for you guys today. Just a little couple of paragraphs from Man and the Symbols by C.G. Jung. But until next time, love y'all. Serve your purpose. You already know. Deuces! Come on, man. Stop playing with me, man. Come on, man.